I grew up loving computers and had this game-changing app idea that would connect outdoor enthusiasts with local guides. My girlfriend Amanda was my biggest supporter for 2 years, and I had just brought my childhood friend Dominic into the project as my business partner. We had a prototype, a solid plan, and were ready to approach investors. Everything seemed perfect until I discovered the most devastating betrayal from the 2 people I trusted most. Let me know where you are watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button to see how I turned this crushing betrayal into my greatest triumph. Growing up in Portland, with a single mom, we never had much money, but I always had big dreams. From the moment I got my first computer at 10 years old, I was hooked. While other kids played video games, I learned to code, creating simple programs that gradually became more complex as my skills developed. My passion only intensified throughout high school, where I was known as the tech kid who could fix anything with a circuit board. College was a struggle financially, but I managed to piece together enough scholarships and work enough part-time jobs to earn my degree in computer science. Those years taught me resilience and resourcefulness, qualities that would serve me well later when everything fell apart. After graduation, I bounced between several tech companies where I consistently felt undervalued. My ideas were often praised in meetings but ultimately shelved in favor of safer, more conventional projects. I worked on other people's visions while mine collected dust. There was always some reason my concepts were too risky, too ambitious, or just not the right fit for company priorities. After 4 years of this pattern, frustration had built to a breaking point. The inspiration for what would become my dream business hit me during a weekend hiking trip in the Cascade Mountains. I had gotten slightly lost and wished for better information about the trail from someone with local knowledge. It struck me that despite all our connectivity, there was no elegant platform connecting outdoor enthusiasts with experienced local guides who knew the hidden gems of any area. The idea consumed me immediately. For 6 months, I devoted every spare moment to research and development. My apartment transformed into a workshop where I would code until 3 in the morning, fueled by coffee and ambition. My social life disappeared as I built prototype after prototype, refining the user experience and core functionality. The concept evolved into a social platform that would use sophisticated algorithms to match outdoor adventurers with compatible local guides based on experience-level interests and specific goals. I called it Trailblazer, a platform that would revolutionize how people experience the outdoors by making expert local knowledge accessible anywhere in the world. The potential was enormous, extending beyond hiking to kayaking, climbing, birdwatching, photography spots. Any outdoor activity where local expertise would enhance the experience. It was during this intense development period that I met Amanda. She came into the coffee shop where I often worked, and we bonded over her noticing the outdoor mapping features on my screen. With her background in marketing and genuine love for nature, she quickly became both my girlfriend and an invaluable sounding board for the business concept. Her insights helped refine the user interface and marketing approach. For 2 years, she supported my vision, completely celebrating small victories and encouraging me through the inevitable setbacks. Then came the tech conference in Seattle, where I unexpectedly ran into Dominic. We had been inseparable as kids but had drifted apart after high school when he moved to Chicago for college. Seeing him again felt like rediscovering a part of myself. We spent hours catching up, and I found myself sharing my vision for Trailblazer. His enthusiasm was infectious, and his background in business development seemed like the perfect complement to my technical skills. When I introduced Dominic to Amanda at dinner the following week, I noticed a slight hesitation in her response. Later, she expressed concerns about something in his manner that seemed calculating. I brushed off her worries, attributing them to natural caution around newcomers. After all, I had known Dominic my entire life. Who could I trust if not him? Within a month, I had brought Dominic officially into the project as my business partner. We drafted preliminary agreements, and I gave him access to everything: the complete business plan, the prototype code, financial projections, and marketing strategies. Together, we refined the investor pitch and began scheduling meetings. The future seemed bright as we celebrated our partnership with a small gathering of friends, toasting to the success that felt inevitable with our combined talents. The first warning signs were subtle, easily dismissed by someone who wanted to believe in the best of people. Dominic began missing our scheduled meetings always with plausible excuses: family emergencies, dental appointments, or transportation issues. When he did show up, he seemed distracted, checking his phone constantly and steering conversations away from specific development milestones. I noticed similar changes in Amanda. She became more guarded about her whereabouts and would often be texting when we were together, angling her phone away when I approached. When I asked who she was messaging so frequently, her answers were vague: just a friend or work stuff. My intuition sensed something was wrong, but I pushed these thoughts aside, focusing instead on the approaching investor meetings. The investor meeting fiasco marked the first undeniable red flag. Dominic had arranged our presentation with a prominent angel investor group in Seattle, sending me the address the night before. I drove 2 hours that morning only to arrive at an empty office building. Frantic calls to Dominic went straight to voicemail. After 30 minutes of growing panic, he finally responded with a different address across town, claiming there had been a last-minute venue change. By the time I navigated through traffic and reached the correct location, I was nearly an hour late. Walking into that conference room sweating and disheveled was humiliating enough, but the cold reception from the investors was worse. They seemed irritated by my tardiness and surprisingly familiar with details of my business that I had not yet presented. When I launched into the technical specifications that were my area of expertise, several investors exchanged glances that suggested they had heard this all before. Afterward, Dominic brushed off my questions with a casual miscommunication happens attitude that left me unsettled. He suggested we get drinks to celebrate what he called a successful meeting, despite my feeling that we had bombed completely. Something was not adding up, but I could not yet piece together what was happening. The disturbing discoveries came in rapid succession over the next week. While reviewing our shared cloud storage, I found altered versions of my business documents, subtle changes to the founding story that minimized my role and elevated Dominic's contributions. Financial projections had been modified to redirect ownership percentages. The changes were slight enough that I might not have noticed had I not been the one to create the originals. Then came a call from Jason, a developer friend, who attended the same tech conference where I had reconnected with Dominic. He mentioned in passing how Dominic's outdoor app concept had been getting positive buzz among potential investors. When I pressed for details, Jason revealed that Dominic had been pitching the idea independently at several exclusive investor dinners, presenting himself as the originator of the concept, with only a passing mention of a technical consultant who was helping with development. The final confirmation of betrayal came when I discovered a trademark application for Trailblazer, filed solely under Dominic's name 3 weeks earlier. This was no misunderstanding or miscommunication. This was calculated theft. When confronted via text, Dominic responded with practiced innocence, suggesting we talk through these misunderstandings over dinner the following evening. Instead of waiting for his choreographed explanation, I drove to Amanda's apartment, desperate for emotional support from the one person I still trusted completely. The sight of Dominic's distinctive red Mustang parked outside her building stopped me cold. Perhaps there was an explanation. Maybe they were discussing the business issue together before our meeting tomorrow. But deep down I already knew. I approached on foot, staying out of sight. Through the ground floor window of her apartment, I saw them together on her couch, his arm around her shoulders, her head resting against him with the comfortable familiarity of an established relationship. When they kissed, it was not the first time. That was immediately clear from their ease with each other. The betrayal was complete. My business and my relationship had been stolen simultaneously by the same person. I did not confront them. I simply walked back to my car, my entire body numb, and drove home in a state of shock. That night alone in my apartment, the full weight of the double betrayal crushed down on me. Everything I had built, everything I had loved, had been taken by someone I had trusted implicitly. The pain was physical, a hollowness that seemed to echo with each heartbeat. For the next week, I became a ghost in my own life. I called in sick to my day job and shut off my phone, disconnecting from everyone. My apartment became both sanctuary and prison as I cycled through grief, rage, and paralyzing self-doubt. Sleep came only in short, restless bursts, usually after exhaustion overpowered the constant replay of memories now tainted with suspicion. Had there been signs I missed? How long had their deception been going on? The questions tortured me without resolution. I ignored the persistent knocking on my door until my younger sister Haley used her emergency key to enter my apartment. She found me unshaven, surrounded by takeout containers, staring blankly at my computer screen, where I had been obsessively tracking the digital footprints of Dominic's betrayal. "You smell terrible," were her first words, bypassing sympathy for brutal honesty as only siblings can. She opened windows, ordered me to shower, and when I emerged, she had cleared the worst of the mess and made coffee. "So," she said, pushing a mug toward me across the kitchen counter, "are you going to let them win, or are you going to fight back?" Her directness cut through my fog of self-pity. When I began explaining all the advantages Dominic now had, the investor connections, the trademark filing, Amanda's support, she cut me off. "Brooks, stop listing reasons you will fail, and start finding ways you might succeed. That is the brother I know." Something in her unwavering confidence triggered a shift in me. That night, after Haley left with the promise to check on me again the next day, I slept soundly for the first time since the discovery. I woke with clarity and purpose that had been absent for days. This was not over, not by a long shot. My first step was to thoroughly review every communication and contract between Dominic and me. Our partnership agreement, drafted but never formally executed, contained several provisions about intellectual property that actually worked in my favor. The prototype code resided in my personal repository with clear documentation of my authorship over the preceding months. A particularly valuable discovery came when examining Dominic's trademark filing. In his haste, he had made a critical error in the classification categories, leaving significant vulnerabilities in the application. I also found evidence of code copied directly from my private repository to a new one created under his credentials, establishing a clear paper trail of theft. Through mutual acquaintances, I pieced together the timeline of Amanda and Dominic's relationship. They had been seeing each other secretly for at least 2 months, beginning shortly after I had introduced them. The betrayal had been calculated and coordinated on both fronts. Armed with this intelligence, I consulted with a lawyer specializing in tech startups and intellectual property. Patricia Winters listened carefully to my situation, occasionally wincing at the personal elements, but focusing primarily on the legal angles. Her assessment was both sobering and empowering. "You have got a strong case for the intellectual property elements," she explained, "but litigation would be lengthy and expensive, potentially killing the business opportunity entirely while you fight over its corpse." Instead, she suggested a different approach, one that would leverage my primary advantage, my technical expertise, and intimate knowledge of the product vision. "Build something better," she advised. "Something he cannot duplicate, because he does not have your skills or understanding." This advice aligned perfectly with an idea already forming in my mind. The original Trailblazer concept was good, but in my recent isolation, I had identified several improvements that would make it exceptional. Dominic had stolen version 1, but he had no access to version 2, which now existed only in my imagination. I reached out to 3 former colleagues whose technical skills I respected and whose integrity I trusted implicitly. Within days, we met in my sister's garage, which became our makeshift headquarters. I shared my story openly, acknowledging the personal pain but focusing on the business opportunity. All 3 signed on immediately, more motivated by the chance to build something revolutionary than by my tale of betrayal. Working from scratch allowed us freedom from legacy decisions in the original prototype. We reimagined the core matching algorithm, incorporating machine learning elements that would continuously improve recommendations based on user feedback. We added augmented reality features for trail visualization and an innovative safety protocol system that would become our key differentiator in the market. As our new prototype took shape, I contacted a venture capital firm known for backing technically innovative startups. My pitch email was straightforward about the situation, with Dominic presenting it as a business risk they should be aware of, rather than a personal grievance. This transparency, combined with the strength of our new prototype, secured us a meeting with their investment committee. Walking into that venture capital firm's conference room was among the most nerve-wracking moments of my life. Our team had prepared exhaustively, but Dominic's head start in the market loomed large in my mind. The four of us, myself, Jin Marcos, and Diane, had rehearsed our presentation dozens of times in Haley's garage. Now facing 5 impassive investors, the stakes felt overwhelmingly high. I began with our personal story, not as a sob tale but as context for the business opportunity. When my former partner took our original concept, he inadvertently did us a favor, I explained. He forced us to rebuild from first principles, questioning every assumption and improving every feature. As we moved through our presentation, the investors' initial politeness transformed into genuine engagement. Their questions became more specific, more technical, and increasingly enthusiastic. When Jin demonstrated the augmented reality trail preview function, one investor actually stood up to get a better view of the screen. The breakthrough moment came when Marcos explained our safety protocol system, a feature absent from the original Trailblazer concept. This system would use a combination of check-ins, weather alerts, and emergency contact protocols to address the primary concern of outdoor adventurers, safety in remote areas. The lead investor, Teresa Blackwell, nodded slowly as the full implications became clear. So your competitor, who I assume is close to market with the original concept, would need to completely restructure their backend to incorporate this safety system, she asked. Exactly, I confirmed. It is not a feature you can simply bolt on afterward. It requires fundamental architecture decisions that must be implemented from the ground up. 2 hours after we entered that room, we walked out with a term sheet offering $3 million in funding, significantly more than we had hoped for, and with better terms than Dominic could possibly have secured with his inferior understanding of the technical requirements. Beyond the money, the deal included introductions to potential strategic partners in outdoor equipment and travel industries. We named our new company Wayfinder, deliberately distancing ourselves from the Trailblazer name now associated with Dominic. Within 4 months of funding, we had assembled a complete team of 15 people working from proper offices in downtown Portland. Patricia Winters came on as our full-time legal counsel, her belief in our vision, evident in her willingness to take partial compensation in company equity. The strategic decision to launch 1 week ahead of Dominic's planned release date was Patricia's suggestion. Make him react to you, she advised, not the other way around. Our launch was targeted and deliberate, focusing first on the Pacific Northwest region, where outdoor activities were deeply embedded in the culture. The response exceeded our most optimistic projections. Within 48 hours, we had 10,000 downloads and coverage in 3 major tech publications. Our safety protocol system received particular praise, with Outside Magazine calling it the must-have feature for serious outdoor enthusiasts, in an article that contrasted our approach with other similar but less comprehensive platforms. A thinly veiled reference to Trailblazer. Dominic's launch the following week felt anticlimactic by comparison. Tech reviewers inevitably measured his product against ours, finding it lacking in precisely the areas where we had innovated beyond the original concept. His investor backing still ensured significant marketing reach, but the product fundamentals were not competitive with what we had built. Our first face-to-face encounter came 2 months later at the Northwest Tech Summit. I was standing with Jin near our company booth when Dominic approached Amanda, notably absent from his side. For a moment, he seemed unsure how to proceed, clearly not having expected to see me in a position of success. "Brooks," he finally managed, extending his hand, as if the past had never happened. "Your platform is impressive." "Congratulations." I shook his hand briefly, maintaining eye contact. "Thank you. Good luck with Trailblazer." I introduced Jin as our Chief Technical Officer and smoothly transitioned to greeting an approaching conference attendee, effectively ending the interaction without giving him the satisfaction of seeing any lingering pain. Later that evening, Jin asked how I had remained so composed. "He stole your girlfriend and your business idea." I would have at least wanted to say something. The best response was already given, I replied. Wayfinder speaks for itself. By our 6-month milestone, Wayfinder had expanded to cover all major outdoor recreation areas in North America, with plans for European expansion the following year. Trailblazer, meanwhile, struggled with user retention and technical limitations. Industry analysts began describing the two companies as cautionary tales of execution versus idea, the same concept yielding drastically different outcomes based on implementation quality. The final validation came when Amanda reached out via email, her message a careful mix of congratulations and nostalgia. "I always knew you were capable of something amazing," she wrote. "I sometimes wonder if things had been different between us." I read the message twice before crafting a brief, polite response, wishing her well, but offering no opening for reconnection. The satisfaction of that moment was not in rejecting her, but in realizing I felt nothing but a distant sadness for what had been lost. The anger and hurt had transformed into something more valuable, focus and determination that had built something larger than myself. 10 months after our launch, Wilderness Technologies, one of the largest digital platforms for outdoor recreation, approached us with an acquisition offer that valued Wayfinder at $87 million. After careful consideration with our team and investors, we accepted a revised offer that allowed our core team to remain intact while gaining the resources to accelerate our global expansion. Looking back from where I stand today, the betrayal that once felt like the end of my world actually forced me onto a better path. Had Dominic never stolen my original concept, I might have built a good company but not the great one Wayfinder became. The necessity of starting over freed me from early design decisions that would have ultimately limited our growth. Sometimes you need to lose everything to gain something better. My team has grown into something more like family than colleagues. The crucible of building under pressure forged bonds stronger than typical business relationships. Jin, Marcos, and Diane have become my closest friends, and our shared journey gives our success deeper meaning than just financial returns. My sister Haley, whose tough love pulled me out of despair, now leads our community outreach program, connecting underprivileged youth with outdoor experiences. I ran into Dominic about a year after the acquisition. Trailblazer had by then been sold to a larger company for a fraction of its initial valuation, essentially an acqui-hire that absorbed the team but discontinued the product. He looked tired, the confidence in his manner dimmed considerably. We exchanged brief pleasantries at a coffee shop, the weight of unspoken history hanging between us. "I messed up," he said finally, "with the business with Amanda, with our friendship. I could give you reasons, but they would just be excuses. I could have responded with righteous anger or smug satisfaction. Both would have been justified. Instead, I simply nodded. Life moves on, Dominic." Walking away, I realized I truly meant it. Holding on to resentment would only have anchored me to that painful past, limiting my ability to fully appreciate where the journey had led. Amanda and I were not meant to be. Someone who could betray me so easily was not the partner I deserved. And while Dominic's actions were inexcusable, the consequences had played out as they should, my success and his failure serving as natural justice. The experience transformed my approach to business and relationships in profound ways. I learned to properly protect intellectual property from the beginning. Something Patricia still reminds me was the silver lining of the entire ordeal. More importantly, I developed a finely tuned sense for character, valuing integrity above charm or credentials when choosing collaborators. Perhaps the most valuable lesson was discovering my own resilience. There is something powerfully clarifying about having your worst fears realized and surviving anyway. Once you have lost what you thought you could not live without, and found yourself still standing, ordinary obstacles lose their power to intimidate. The success of Wayfinder ultimately came not from a desire for revenge, but from a commitment to excellence. We built something remarkable not to spite those who betrayed us, but because creating something truly valuable was the best path forward. The company now helps millions of people safely experience the natural world with confidence, a legacy far more satisfying than any vendetta could have been. Life rarely follows the path we envision. Sometimes the detours forced upon us lead to destinations far better than our original destination. Have you ever had a setback that ultimately led to something better in your life? Share your story in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button, subscribe to hear more real-life experiences, and share this video with someone who might need encouragement after facing betrayal. Remember, your greatest comeback might be waiting just on the other side of your biggest disappointment. Thank you for listening, and may your own trails lead to unexpected vistas.